love diving into a new show and a new week with scenes from the sea. And there's something new about these sites themselves, at least as far as people are concerned. Scientists with the Schmidt Ocean Institute just found out about them. This is taking place beneath the waves of the Galapagos Islands. They're part of the South American nation of Ecuador, about 650 miles west of its Pacific coast. What we've got here are 2 coral reefs that researchers just discovered, along with 2 seamounts they've never explored. Seamounts are underwater hills or mountains whose summits are below the ocean's surface. The reefs are huge. One described last week is more than 2,600 feet long, which is longer than 7 football fields. They're also deeper than many other reefs, more than 1,300 feet under the surface in colder waters. One researcher quoted in ScienceNews.org says it's like finding a basement in your house you never knew was there and that's filled with really cool stuff. Hi, I'm Carl Azus for The World from A to Z, and it is fantastic to see you this Monday. Our topics include Palestinian refugees, some Ottoman Empire history, paramedics in jet suits, and the #1 cheer dad. Before we get there, though, we want to bring you up to speed on a recent natural disaster in Mexico. Its southern resort city of Acapulco was one of the places hit by an incredibly strong hurricane last week. Forecasters and computer models had predicted that Hurricane Otis would make landfall as a Category 1 storm, the weakest classification of hurricane. But in the day before it arrived, Otis rapidly intensified to a Category 5 storm, the strongest kind of hurricane, and residents didn't have time to prepare. By the time we produced this show, authorities said 43 people had lost their lives and more than 200,000 homes were damaged.
Acapulco, a tourist beach town, now the scene of heartbreaking destruction. After the Category 5 Hurricane Otis barreled into southern Mexico with sustained winds of 165 miles per hour, building after building ripped apart. Video taken from a drone showing widespread flooding. Some residents say they had no choice but to evacuate on foot. Power is disrupted for more than 300,000 people and food increasingly scarce.
Looking at it now, Acapulco is a total disaster. It's not what it was before. The park was totally destroyed, the buildings, all the streets. No, I would describe Acapulco now as a total disaster.
As rescue workers reached the hardest hit areas, they reported grim news about the loss of life. Officials said they tried to alert the populace about the rapidly intensifying storm, but there was not enough time for many to seek shelter, flee, or stock up on supplies. In less than 24 hours, Otis exploded from a tropical storm to a Category 5 hurricane, which can inflict catastrophic wind damage and life-threatening storm surge. Forecasters admit Otis's sudden strengthening as it traveled over uncommonly warm waters caught them off guard.
A word of knowledge. What are 2 of the countries that border Israel? Iraq and Syria, Egypt and Jordan, Iran and Lebanon, Egypt and Saudi Arabia. Israel's borders countries include Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, and Jordan.
On Friday, members of the United Nations General Assembly voted 120-14 to call for a humanitarian truce in Gaza. It would be a ceasefire that would eventually end the fighting between Israel and Hamas, which controls Gaza, but such a ceasefire is nowhere in sight. The latest war between the two sides began earlier this month after Hamas launched a terrorist attack against Israel. Over the weekend, Israel announced it had entered a new phase in the war, increasing its attacks against Hamas by land, sea, and air. But what about Palestinian refugees? Last week, we told you that Egypt and Jordan had refused to accept them. Experts say there are several reasons for this. One, their future is uncertain. Would they be allowed to return to Gaza after the war ends? Would they have homes to return to? And who would be in charge of the territory? All of these answers are unknown. 2, Arab countries are concerned that if Palestinians leave Gaza, it'll weaken their chance that they'll realize their hope and determination to have their own country in the Middle East. 3. Hamas fighters reportedly live among civilians. Egypt is concerned that if Palestinians move there, the militants among them might continue to launch attacks against Israel. That could threaten a decades-old peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. 4. Countries like Egypt are concerned their own stability could be threatened if the militants who move there start attacking their governments. It's a tremendous challenge for the region with no simple solution in sight. First stop in our world of viewers is out in the Pacific Ocean in a commonwealth of the United States that's about 130 miles northeast of Guam. We're talking about the Northern Mariana Islands, and we want to give a warm welcome to Miss Spieth or Miss Spaith's class at Marianas High School in Saipan. Next, we've got Mr. G's and Miss Reardon's classes online today. Great to see our friends in Las Vegas, Nevada, watching from Mulaski Junior High School.
On this date in world history.
October 30th, 1918, the Armistice of Mudros or Mudros was signed between the Ottoman Empire and Britain, which was representing the Allies of World War I. The agreement to stop fighting was signed on board the HMS Agamemnon battleship, and it marked the end of the Ottoman Empire's part in the war. It demobilized its army and surrendered strategic locations to the Allies. And in 1938, a radio adaptation of H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds terrified some members of its American audience. The play depicts a Martian invasion, and the drama, which was presented like a newscast, was so realistic that the man behind it, actor Orson Welles, later had to answer questions from the press about the fears it caused. The Federal Communications Commission investigated the production but found it didn't break any laws, but The War of the Worlds served as a lesson about the power of radio.
This is thanks to Gravity Industries in England, making British paramedics look like Iron Man. The brand new jet suit allows emergency services to traverse mountain trails without ever touching the ground. Watch as jet suit inventor Richard Browning flies a test route up a mountain, a 750-meter climb over a 2-kilometer distance in around 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
If you think of the cost of a paramedic helicopter and all the crew involved and the maintenance and everything, actually this is a fraction of that.
This snazzy 3D printed suit has 2 small turbines on each arm and a large one on the back. And if you're like me, you're instantly asking how high and how fast can it go? Well, it tops out at around 80 miles per hour and 12,000 feet in altitude. But the flyer is advised to stay well under those limits.
Where normally I work through the day on a helicopter, obviously on days like today where we've got sort of low-lying mist and fog, the helicopter's going to struggle to sort of get there and get up there. And hopefully, you know, this gives us the opportunity to look at other options to get care to those patients quickly.
Jamie Walsh is the first of 3 trainees to fly in the suit. He's a little iffy at first, but after coaching and a half dozen lessons, he's looking a lot more comfortable with his newfound power. The next step is to get the paramedics to Tony Stark level flight skills in the jet suit so that they can begin providing rapid response to emergencies.
Friday Night Lights bring out fans of football, but one man in Texas is showing he's the #1 fan of his daughter. From Temple High School, he's gone viral for doing the cheer squad's routines from the stands. Andre Simmons is an infantryman in the U.S. Army. He misses his wife and 5 kids while he's serving, so he learns the cheer routines to make up for that and to spend time with Jaslyn. Simmons says, yes, she was embarrassed at first, but now she teaches him the cheers. Yeah, it's a challenge, but he was like, bring it on. He wasn't afraid to exercise his liberty to try out something new, and right on Cupid, he's got the whole varsity in K-motion, hands springing up to give him a high V for doing his arabesque and elevating his favorite flyer and rounding off every game with spirit. Yeah. I'm Carl Azus, hoping you go fight and win your Monday. We'll jump back into a new routine tomorrow. This is the world from A to Z.